we're looking at a drawing that was not made for a real project. No one commissioned this skyscraper. No one asked for it. Wright imagined it and presented it as a kind of polemical gift to the world. This drawing, over 8 feet tall, we know from photos in the archive, was prepared for a press conference that Wright called in Chicago in 1956 to present to the world the absolute outlandish project for a mile-high skyscraper. So this drawing, it's a manifesto about architecture because it has a lot of information, inscriptions, depictions on it that are very intriguing, curious, a little hard to understand at first glance. Well, very easy to understand, but hard to figure out why. It's also, in a way, an autobiography because it has Wright's educational degrees, statements about who he is, and a list of people that he admires. So I wanted to figure that out, unpack all those inscriptions, understand what it is. Almost a half of the sheet is not taken up by the design itself, but is taken up by this long scroll of information, and then this embedding, if you will, of the skyscraper, not just in the lands of the prairies of Chicago, but also in the history of architecture. What we actually see, if we try to unpack this panorama, is the great Pyramid of Cheops, Egyptian civilization, a modern obelisk, the 19th century Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. by the architect Robert Mills, the tallest freestanding masonry, all stone building at the time of its completion. The first really great tall iron, new material of the 19th century ironwork, the Eiffel Tower of 1889, and then the Empire State Building in the late 20s, early 30s, the tallest building when it was unveiled. So you could say that there are two time scales here. There's a time scale that's very long, history of civilization, gathered together almost like an imaginary World's Fair in Chicago, and a history of architecture as it relates to engineering through a series of great figures, a kind of pantheon of great men, because they're all men, architects, one only, Louis Sullivan, and engineers. Some of the people are still famous, others I had to really dig around to try to find out who they were. First I thought this list that starts off with Louis Sullivan, then goes to Elisha Otis, the inventor of the elevator. Others, Coignet and Monnier, less well known unless you're an expert in the history of development of reinforced concrete. Very vital for the principle that Wright is going to work with here. Memorials, which also includes John Roebling, the engineer of the Brooklyn Bridge. And then salutations to a group of people, Turoha, Beggs, Cross, Pierluigi Nervi, Polivka, Maillard. For the most part, very, very well-known engineers. Polivka, perhaps the least well-known. The Polivka archive is at the State University of New York at Buffalo. Off in JetBlue to Buffalo, and in that wonderful set of boxes that Polivka's widow left to Buffalo, find snapshots of Polivka visiting with Frank Lloyd Wright, the telegram that Polivka sent to Frank Lloyd Wright saying he admired his ideas on organic structure, the proposal to work with him on various projects, the sheets of calculations that I can't make any sense out of how he figures out the mathematics of the ramp of the Guggenheim. A very deep connection is emerging as I go box through box. I've come to the working conclusion, trying to understand this complicated drawing with all of its packed-in messages, that this ultimately is Wright's last autobiography. He wrote one that he amended over the years from its first publication in the 30s, enlarged, long reading project, but this is the most concise autobiography that he's left us, how he wants it to be seen in the future as a landmark of the history of architecture.